Welcome to the Gilchrist Experience. If you're wondering what that was, it's the God star, or the dog star. You know, dog is God spelled backwards. Now we have this bright star, in the, I guess they call it the North Star. It's the brightest star in the universe. And what happened was it's right below Sirius A is a smaller star, a dwarf star, called Sirius B. And this tribe of Dogons in the country of Mali, Africa, right next to Niger, which you've been hearing about in the news with the troops being murdered. This Sirius mystery is the beginnings of creation. Supposedly Isis and Osar all come from this planetary system. It's called the Sirius mystery. It came out in the 70s. Robert K.G. Temple wrote a book on it. It was a big rave in the 70s. At history, we'll show the roll-ins later on with Nemo, Mr. Star Trek tells a story he does on a History Channel. So this mystery of the Sirius mystery, this Dogon tribe in the middle of nowhere in Mali knows secrets of this planet which they didn't discover, which you can't see without a telescope. We have all these secrets that are supposed to have been visited by Numa, I forgot the exact name, but by extraterrestrials sometime in the past. And this Dogon tribe described their whole history by hieroglyphics. They're descendants of the ancient Egyptians.
Yes.
All right? And welcome to the show, Brother Leroy. And we've got something good for you today.
Well, thank you for allowing me to be a co-host, good brother, a guest host, and waiting on our brother to show up from Las Vegas or wherever he is.
Making some money.
Where you can, when we have that opportunity, stay right where you is.
Make the money, brother.
I first heard about Sirius A and Sirius B by way of Ivan Van Sertima.
Ah, of course, right.
Ivan Van Sertima is, for folks who don't know, in my estimation, he's the reason why, quote, you have a diminishing Columbus Day, so-called holiday event. And definitely within the black community, Brother Ivan Van Sertima wrote a book. The title is They Came Before Columbus, establishing the fact that black people were here before Columbus, not only the Indians, the indigenous Indians, but also the fact that there were two major trips out of Africa, documented from African historical documents, two major trips, armadas that the Spanish would call them. These are hundreds of ships that came this way, and that we were here. And one of the proofs of it that he has in They Came Before Columbus is the Olmec heads, one of which, a replication of it, is in the Museum of Natural History. You go up to the floor, we just asked, where's the Olmec head? And it's a replication of the Olmec head, which is distinctly big lips, big nose, and what they call Negroid. But he began to give a series of lectures right here in the community, in the black community, Uptown, First World Lecture Series. And that's a lecture series that Dr. Ben, Dr. Henry Clark, Charles Finch, Edwin Nichols, Dr. Edward Bynum, names that we're familiar with and names that we aren't familiar with, tremendous scholars, some who are still with us, others who have made their transition. So he shared with us, and there's also in the book, a paperback book by Van Sertima, Ivan Van Sertima, which is Blacks in Science.
Right, okay.
And he talks about the Dogon and the Sirius A and Sirius B stars. Listening to a late night talk show, which is Coast to Coast AM. They come on WOR at 1 a.m. in the morning. Well, they've had a number of individuals on, non-blacks on, talking about Mali, the Dogon, and they want to project that this is not knowledge that came from the Dogon, but that they were visited by extraterrestrials,
Right.
and that they were given this information
Right.
about the stars and stuff like that. That is a way that, for me, for Brother Leroy, that is a major part of white supremacy, black inferiority. There's nothing that they can allow, when I say they, those
Right.
who control the society and the culture, there's nothing that they can allow that would come up showing us competent or even superior in mental ability. Sports and whatnot,
Right.
entertainment, nobody can
Because that's the
hold us
physical
down in that.
aspect.
All they
But when
can
it
do
comes to mental
is, right.
capacity, like you didn't have a black quarterback.
Couldn't think, and you didn't have a middle linebacker.
Well, you know what? Donald Trump has saved us all this effort of showing what white supremacy really means. All right, he is bringing out exactly how white supremacists think. Think about it. What is he doing for us? He's showing you how greed, selfishness, self-centeredness can ruin your mind. We know he's psychotic. There's something mentally wrong with him. And the people that follow him and truly believe it have a problem themselves. So God in his wisdom has really brought us Donald Trump just to give us an insight on what lunacy looks like. Lunacy and jealousy. Look what got this man where he is. We had a black president that upset everybody because he was a nice guy. He had sense. He had a sense of respectability. He was good to everybody. Black people didn't think he did enough for them. White people thought he did too much for black people. So nothing was right by him, and the crackers tried to destroy him.
Right.
As Donald Trump came up in this environment with the jealous, I say most white supremacists have a jealousy, like the story of the Dogon. Now they're going to disprove this because this is a native tribe. They don't have any greed, a sense of dominating anybody. They just have their religion, and they don't ask anybody to follow what they do. They're just doing their thing. And they happen to know things that nobody else on the planet knows. And you can't see the star without a telescope, which they don't possess. They have knowledge of the universe.
The universe.
That man hasn't discovered himself. This Sirius Mystery B wasn't discovered by telescope until 1970. And the Dogons were telling their story in the 20s and the 30s.
Well, it just so happens that Brother Sankey Brath and I interviewed a black scientist who doesn't know the information that Charles Finch, that's the brother who's down, Dr. Charles Finch is a great scholar, a brother who is down in Atlanta. He is a medical doctor or a surgeon, and he has shared, he has a lot of information on the Dogon, and he's traveled into Egypt and other parts of the world tremendously, and the only reason that he is not available for a show like this is his working hours. But anyway, the point is that we interviewed a black scientist who ascribed to the notion projected by the Europeans.
Right.
And that is that the Dogon, this is another one, as opposed to extraterrestrials giving the Dogon information about these stars, there's the notion that the Dogon was visited by a scientist from France who gave him this.
Javal?
No, I don't know what the guy's name. I don't know what the guy's name is.
That was the 30s. That was the guy who first wrote the.
But I don't know.
Javal was
but
his name.
I'm just telling you.
This is in the book, The Sirius Mystery.
Okay,
right?
I haven't read the book.
Oh, okay.
The point is that nothing that we know or can do is supposed to be original to us. Although you cannot deny the Sphinx, you cannot deny the pyramid, you cannot deny all the major contributions that were made in antiquity, even the education of the top philosophers and scholars who were renowned as Greek philosophers and Roman philosophers,
Well, yeah.
having studied in
You and I go
Egypt.
back to the 50s where we thought civilization started with the Greeks.
Yes, because it's in the book. That's where the book starts.
We didn't know any better.
That's where the book
And when
starts.
Cleopatra looked like Elizabeth Taylor, we used to laugh at that stuff because we knew better. In the 50s now. You and I
Yes.
came up in the same scene there. All right, you know what we're going to do? I'm going to show you some information now. You'll hear from Leonard Nimoy. What's his
Why
name?
not?
You know, possibly he's verification. You know, he's from the Star Trek. Yeah. So listeners, I'll run a piece, play Doggone 1, and we'll get a word from the History Channel. All right?
These dances, these masks, these strange rituals have meaning. They describe precisely the relationship between a remote African tribe and the heavens. This tribe believes all life comes from a distant dark star, invisible to the naked eye. Recently, modern science was able to find this star and confirm its existence. Now we must ask, how did a primitive people, lacking instruments of any kind, discover a dark star hidden deep in space? In Central Africa, among fortress-like cliffs on the southern edge of the Sahara Desert, live a people called the Dogon. 1,000 years ago, fleeing from warring tribes, the Dogon found refuge here. The Dogon have endured and preserved mysterious ancient knowledge. Knowledge of an invisible star and its movements through the heavens. The hum of the bull roar is believed to be the voice of the sacred star. It calls initiates to a ceremony high in the cliffs. Dating back to a time when the Western world was locked in the Dark Ages, this ritual has taken place year after year. During the ceremony, the full spectrum of Dogon knowledge is revealed and passes from generation to generation. A circle within a circle depicts Saturn and its rings, which can only be seen with a telescope. A large circle and 4 satellites. The planet Jupiter and its moons. Most remarkable is this symbol. It represents the orbit of the Dogon star, a phenomenon deep in stellar space. Yet, no such orbiting star is visible from the Earth. It was not until this century that Western astronomers began to suspect its existence. A desert tribe called the Dogon, isolated in the African wilderness, may have identified a star invisible to the unaided eye. How is this possible? How could the Dogon possess this sophisticated astronomical information? Approximately 200,000 Dogon live in 300 villages scattered through their land. Throughout most of Africa, the simple melodies of the shepherds' flutes reflect the unchanging pattern of village life. On the surface, there is little to separate the Dogon from countless other tribes. What makes the Dogon different is a unique social harmony maintained by strong tradition. Among these people, murder, theft, and suicide is all but unknown. Greed is rare. Disputes are settled by debate in open forum. A goat has broken down a neighbor's wall and damaged his crops. The farmer demands repayment. The goat's owner insists it is the farmer's fault. He should have built a better wall. The elders decide that indeed the wall should be stronger, that both men should rebuild it and replant the crop.
The reason why I played this piece, I want to show people the spiritual nature that's inherent in us as a people, and that having been taken from a land and brought here as slaves, we're exposed to a completely different element spiritually. And you have to, I mean, black people in general, or people and all people have to understand the spiritual nature in all human beings. And Donald Trump is a classic example of the human spirit gone awry. All right? So he's the symbol of greed, selfishness, self-centeredness. I mean, all the negatives you can talk about as far as these people that know about the existence of a planetary system unknown to modern man.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they have a simple life, and you heard there's no greed, no selfishness, and there's no call for all that if you have a spiritual center. And this is the problem that we're up against.
Spiritual center to me is knowledge of self.
Okay.
And what that means is who are you, Mr. Black Man, Mr. Black Woman, based on our culture? You mentioned so very clearly having been taken from our home and given another mindset.
Right, exactly.
And Minister Farrakhan says he's been pointing out it's not anything new, but he has branded this statement, made in America. The Negro is made in America.
Okay.
The nigger consciousness is made in America. That's a consciousness that we did not demonstrate as borne witness by the clip that you just showed. That is, the temperament of black people is one of peace and harmony, although there have been breaks in time, according to what we've been taught, of us warring against one another and even desiring to destroy large numbers of people.
Well, that's what's happening now, isn't it? Are we warring against each other?
I'm talking about black folks in the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad for black people. The message to the black man is very, very important at this time, because what he says, the making of the Caucasian was to show us the weaker side of us, the weaker side of us, that which we would have to corral and suppress if we're to live into the future.
I don't choose to separate the demon from any color.
Say that again?
I don't choose to separate the demon from any color, because the demon's in all humankind.
That's what we're saying.
All right?
That's what we're saying. The manifestation of the weaker side of the black man, the black woman, because we are the originators of the universe and humanity. They cannot deny that.
Right.
There are new people on the planet. Now, who were we before that time?
All right.
You see, I'm not going into that, but that is a question to be asked. And going back to Trump, that is white supremacy unbridled. That's running wild. And
well, what about the white people that don't believe in that?
Then they have to stand up, just like the senator from Arizona,
That's
Flake. they have to stand up and say,
They
hey,
show
wait
their
a minute.
spirituality.
But they have to stand up from the standpoint of right, not from the standpoint of embarrassment.
Right.
You have those who are embarrassed by his behavior. They say he's not presidential.
Right.
Other presidents have killed lots and lots of people, and they've been very professional and businesslike. Say, wow, you know. But this guy said, hey, man, wait a minute. I don't like the way this guy's talking over there. You know, we'll take him out.
Well, he's a moron. And I mean,
Not
plain
presidential.
he's a moron.
Not presidential.
In anybody's book, he's a moron.
Well, the
period.
man, his Secretary of State called him something like that,
That's-
right?
that's
With
what I'm
some
saying.
adjectives. But
He don't know how to play the game right.
we cannot be. Look, when Koch was on the scene, and the other guy that became mayor of New York, Giuliani was on the scene. We looked at them. Many of us looked at them as being the devil incarnate.
Well, they
And behind
They
them
were.
comes Trump. So there's a whole group that we have to be dealing
But see,
with.
the whole point is that Trump bamboozled 62 million people.
Maybe yes, maybe no. They still come out to his
I
rallies.
don't think that 62 million of them are all. I think a lot of them are unhappy with him now.
A lot of them are. But there are others, and I'm not saying this in order to be right. It's not comfortable for me to have a danger in our midst, and the majority of our people are not woke. They are not awoke.
Yeah.
They are not. They are not. They don't see. They don't see what others of us see. There's a danger here. The guy who is over the Department of Justice,
Oh, well.
they've just come out with a document that says the FBI feels that the big threat to America are black, conscious thinking individuals. This is
Which century was that?
today.
Oh, who said that?
Today.
You heard that from who?
No, you go on the
Sessions?
internet.
Well, he's a.
It came out. Well, so what
Okay.
does that do? That position, in my estimation,
Put us
that
right back.
positions black people as being the enemy of the United States, which we aren't. I'm talking about whether we're asleep or awake or not.
Yeah.
And that gives license to the other security forces in America.
To
It's
come
no
out with
hard.
it.
No, yeah. So
And that's what they're doing.
if we're not seeing this, that's what they're doing even without the document coming out about the FBI saying that the big threat is black conscious individuals. This is their document, not ours, not our
I hadn't
estimate.
heard that. That sounds like the 60s.
It's COINTELPRO revisited.
Yeah, really.
Okay?
That's big time.
But this is
And most
COINTELPRO.
blacks don't remember that. I see what you
They
mean.
don't know it.
They don't know that.
They don't know it. You and I come up in a period of time
Well, we were conscious.
when
You
there
had
were
to be.
those, well, there are those of us who related to the struggle, and those of us who just say, hey, you know, ain't nothing gonna change. There are those of us who related in our hearts and mind to the struggle for freedom, justice, and equality, and there's a whole major part of us, I'm talking about black folks, standing off to the side. So they don't have a history to relate to their children. They can't relate to them what they weren't involved in. They don't know about no COINTELPRO. What is that? Is that the Bitcoin? They don't know what that is. Caucasians don't know what it is. But those of us who are involved in the matters of blackness and have been, then we know about that. But that is folks can go into Google and pull up FBI report on black consciousness. It came out
That's
in the news
interesting.
last week. But look, if we're talking about Trump for a minute, Trump had a mentor, Roy Cohn.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Roy Cohn, when you see Trump, you see Roy Cohn plus Trump. Okay, so you have to. And I wasn't interested in this Roy Cohn. You know, when he was in action with McCarthy, and also the guy that he was a major not developer, but he's the one that built up Jones Beach. I can't remember. Roy Cohn was connected with him. All these guys are vicious guys. I just can't remember the name. But there are people out there who can. They're yelling at the TV now.
Well, we're talking about gangsters, really. Plain and simple.
Legitimate.
Legitimate gangsters. And this whole Russian tie with Putin, I mean, this is a no-brainer. I mean, for us, it's a no-brainer. But for the public to understand what's going on, that's what baffles me so.
What do you mean?
What I'm saying is that how could you go for somebody, a president that's pro-Russian, when Russia has always been
the enemy.
You know what I mean?
Projected
What
as
happened?
the enemy of the United
What
States.
happened that we don't understand that Russia is not our friends? And he had a beef with Hillary anyway,
Yeah.
because she interrupted his election back in 2005, it was? Had protesters in the street.
Talking about
Putin.
Putin. Yeah.
Putin.
The thing with that, Brother Winston, is that America has been involved in other people's elections.
Always, okay.
And
So
what we may be seeing,
chickens coming home to roost.
what we may be seeing, okay? But there's another history lesson that's being played out, and that's in Afghanistan. And the guy that just died, Brzezinski, Zbigniew Brzezinski, he developed a strategy to suck the Russians into Afghanistan. They had a proxy government there.
Well, they were there first, weren't they?
He had a plan which was executed to suck Russia in to Afghanistan. They had a guy who favored Russia. It was like a satellite nation. That's my way of putting it, to be corrected.
Well,
And what happened when they got sucked in, then the U.S. supplied the Taliban with the weapons to fight the Russians, and the Russians got chewed up
Okay.
and run out of Afghanistan.
But that disrupted the whole drug trade, because Afghanistan's famous for opium.
When the Taliban took over, it disrupted the drug trade.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So what happened then?
Well, they had to send in the forces to get rid of the Taliban, because they're messing with the money.
Right?
I mean, drug business is big business for governments.
All right?
You know, CIA was quite profitable shuffling coke in the early 80s during Reagan.
There's a movie out, Made in America, right?
Yeah.
Made in America.
Yeah, I heard about
That's the boy they call Scientologist. Come on, the major star. Plays in Mission Impossible. Anyway, he does a very good job in that in that film. A very good job in that film, because he's out of character as it relates to the other movies that he's been. He's the major star. He does two films a year. But going back to the Dogon.
This hasn't come out yet.
Oh, it's
just
out
about
there.
to come
It's
out.
out there, and
Just came out.
it's been out there 4 weeks ago, and
Oh,
it's,
okay, 4 weeks.
in certain communities, it's walking the streets.
Okay. You can buy a. Okay.
Sir,
There's something on the corner of 125th Street. Okay.
the
Which corner?
Dogon, the Dogon. Look, the Dogon is important. Is an important study in my estimation. No, I'm saying period. It's an important study to show once again what black people have that they don't know they have.
That's it. That's the
Okay?
whole point.
Now, you tie in the Dogon. In some writings, they relate Benjamin Banneker as being a descendant from Mali, and therefore,
Oh, really?
in certain,
I hadn't heard that.
you gotta get closer
man.
to the grassroots. You're at the top of the grass. You gotta be
Well,
down
I
there.
got grassroots right
all right,
here,
there
man.
you go.
That's why you're
All
here,
right.
brother.
So, Benjamin Banneker is the person who developed, here's a guy who was supposed to be working with the guy, the Frenchman who laid out Washington, D.C.
That's right.
and then got angry because the deal didn't go right, and they
He
had to
had
depend on
memorized.
Benjamin Banneker to
Had
do
memorized the whole thing.
Now,
That's
when
a true story.
when he lays it out, all of this Egyptian Masonic symbolism is all over. So I can't even go into what that is, but that is
Was
Washington,
Banneker
D.C.
a Mason?
Not necessarily. There's a brother.
Yeah, the
His name
photographic
is
mind.
his name is Browder, Brouder, and he does a tour of Washington D.C.
Mm-hmm.
He's a brother who does a tour of Washington D.C. You have to go on the internet, Facebook, whatever, locate him and set up a tour, and he points out the Masonic symbolism, how the streets are laid out as it relates to the universe and all that other kind of stuff. But getting back, we have to talk to our young people about the Dogon, Mali, Timbuktu,
Right, Timbuktu,
and
right.
point out the intelligence that was there that's been buried but is now coming to the surface, just like the movie Hidden Figures, just like the series Hidden Colors.
Yeah,
Okay?
that's, we should talk about that.
So I'm
How the
saying
Moors came in there in 700 AD and
into
clean
Spain.
up, brought civilization to Europe. A lot of people don't know that story. We have to do a show on that.
Well-
I tell you what, let's, I'm trying to get Cinque
Okay.
on the Skype. Were we able to do that? Or what is, can we run the roll in and see if we can get him on the phone or whatever? All right, run this last roll in and we'll come back to you. See if we get Cinque on the phone, on the Skype, or telephone, either one. The last roll in? It kept you off your feet? You haven't done this in a while, huh?
While they're getting that together, the Hidden Figures is very, very important because for quite some time, females, black, white, any other, have been projected as being slow in math
Right.
in America.
Really?
Yes.
I thought they were always known to be
No.
smart in that.
No. I have a document somewhere at home
Really?
talking about that, but they're not in actuality because we see it in Hidden Figures.
Yeah.
Okay? So we can use that film in our homes, in our classrooms, to show young sisters and brothers how smart we are.
Yeah.
Now there's another lady, so Hidden Figures talks about black women who created math and formulas that enable them to go up into space. There's another lady, her name is Raye, R-A-Y-E, Montague, M-O-N-T-A-G-U-E. She's in Arkansas. What they were doing in the sky, she did in the ocean for the American government. She revolutionized shipbuilding and submarine building. You can go into Google, put in Raye Montague. She's in Arkansas, and they have a clip, a TV clip, and she's very humble in everything. And so that's another support for us to point out to our students, look, you're not slow. Our children are going to school in New York and winding up way back. They're intentionally not being educated. They are intentionally not being educated.
Yeah.
Unless you want to go along with the program that we're dumb people, and we're not.
No.
So our children, the parents and the grandparents who look at this show, are obligated to begin to do an about face and look at their children as being super capable. How do you maximize the intelligence of these children?
Right.
They're going to have to do that. We're going to have to do that.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to point out the
That's
connection
very
of
true.
Dogon.
That's one of the reasons why we're running this, to show how we're lied to so often about who we are and what we are. I mean, they've got it worse than we had it when in the 50s. I mean, I think we came from a mold that's been broken and never to be rebuilt because of the masterminds I can think of coming out of our period.
Yeah.
I mean, at the Dogons, we were laughing at all this ridiculous stuff. We knew that we weren't inferior. We couldn't understand how people came up from the South and felt that they weren't were less than.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it was a standard joke in New York.
Yeah,
That you come
yeah.
up from the South and feel inferior to, because they were always jealous of us. They wanted to sit in the sun and get our complexion. They wanted to imitate our music. We were the hipper ones. We were physically fit, better looking, more hip. That's where we grew up in the 50s, when they were picket fence and, you know, being corny.
But there's a, you know, Dick Gregory talked about a generation of whites who were coming up, the young whites, Caucasians, who are not, many of them, who are not in tune with what has happened before. They're just not in harmony with it. Now there are others, which is called the alternate right or something like that. These are young guys. A lot of guys go to college, a lot of guys, and then you have another group.
Now you got to look at it now. Today, it's almost impossible to be racist, in my eyes. If you're amongst any kind of people, especially here in New York, if you sit on any subway car and can pick out who's superior to who, I mean, God bless you.
Yeah. No.
I mean, come on. You can't look at anybody and tell me where they're coming
That's
from.
right.
I mean, if you're
Right.
human, you know we're all given the gift of God and the devil. It's up to you to figure out which one
That's
you want to
right.
bring out and present to
Exactly.
the world.
Exactly.
And Donald Trump chooses to show his devil's side. He
Well-
knows his better angels are in there somewhere, but he can't show it because it's a weakness to him.
I'm not.
It's a weakness to him. But he, to me, is a classic example of which way not to go. So he's teaching most whites what it is to be a greedy, stupid. I mean, come on.
Do you want
I
to
think
be
it's a
like
blessing
this?
from God. Either you want to choose the good side of yourself or you want to
Or the
take the
bad.
dark side.
Amen.
It's not color anymore.
Good.
It's about sensibility.
There you go.
And what makes the world go
Yes.
round is that you
Yes.
got to accept all mankind as, like Malcolm said, and I play that piece all the time. I don't care who I work with, as long as you for my cause of liberating mankind from the stress and strain. Now, we got the biggest beef on the planet. We don't go blowing up buildings and blowing up. I mean, who could have more of a beef than we do?
And getting insurance payments of $4 billion
I mean,
in the
come on.
process.
We had 300 years of slavery, but I don't carry that burden with me. I can't do that. I can't take all that animosity because it kills your spirit. When you can look at the Dogons and realize that they can know the mysteries of the universe and understand that they come from that universe, and when they die, they go back to that universe. That there's life after death. Just live this one right, and you only get to come back here. I mean, it's everybody's religion. There's no dominant religion on the planet.
Well, there is, Brother Winston. It's called religion, but it's the will of God.
Okay.
How the universe was created. When you look at the sun and what it does, when you look at the planets revolving, there's laws that set up. Anything that goes outside is destroyed. Anything that goes outside of its orbit. And what I'm saying is that there are things that are called religion, but they're actually a way of life. And the harmony in which we are to live as human beings, not only with one another, but in terms of nature.
Right.
You see, we have to look at how we would run a nation. I'm talking about black people have to look at that. How would we run a nation? Would there be homelessness? Would there be homelessness? Would there be 100,000 students?
You think it would be any different?
I'm saying we have to conceive of how we would run a society. We have to conceive that.
Well, this comes with your concept of how you run your life. And how we do right here is how we project the Gilchrist Experience. All this is black men talking about their experiences here on the planet.
Yeah.
And I try to present to you every week something that makes sense. I mean,
get people to think.
hey, we survived
some
to be
research.
76 years old, so we got a lot to say. Pay attention, youngsters.
I was hiding as a 27-year-old, but I guess I've been blown. You understand?
All
My
right,
cover
look,
has been blown.
can we run that other Dogon piece, or do we have Cinque on the Skype?
Among the Dogon people, Dr. Guggenheim has gradually gained the confidence of the Dogon elders and acceptance into the inner circle of secret knowledge.
The Dogon believe the universe was born in a vast explosion, and as it opened up, everything that we know about and everything that the Dogon know about in the world came pouring out, and nothing was left except a shell. This empty shell became the star that they call the Pontolo, and that we call Sirius B.
In 1950, astronomers confirmed the existence of the Dogon star. At the United States Naval Observatory, Washington, D.C., Chief Astronomer Dr. Irving Lindenblad devoted years to the search for the dark star.
The Sirius system is a very interesting challenge observationally because it is very difficult to observe a star 10 seconds from such a bright object as Sirius A.
After the years of effort, Dr. Lindenblad finally succeeded in taking this photograph of Sirius B and its giant companion. The Dogon possess even more startling information about the star they hold sacred. They say that when it gave forth all its energy, it collapsed in upon itself, becoming incredibly dense and so heavy that all the earthly beings combined cannot lift it. The San Fernando Observatory, Sylmar, California. Dr. Gary Chapman is an astronomer specializing in the physical characteristics of stars. By splitting the light collected from a distant star into colored bands, its physical characteristics can be analyzed.
The Sirius B is fairly normal in the surface layers, but we do rely on the calculations to tell us that the interior is essentially out of nuclear fuel. It's a dead star. We know from modern calculations that it has a very, very high density. It has a density about 5 million times that of water. And if you were to be on the surface of Sirius B right now, you'd be crushed very, very flat because the surface gravity is about 100 million times that of the Earth.
The symbol is explained. The knowledge preserved in rituals through the centuries has been confirmed. Beyond the Dogon knowledge of the dark star, the symbols reveal more information about the celestial universe. They correctly place the Earth and our solar system within the Milky Way and state correctly that the massive cluster of stars is far more distant than the planets. The understanding of astronomical movements led the Dogon to investigate the human anatomy. They discovered the circulation of blood in the body long before it was discovered by the English physician William Harvey in the 17th century. These symbols and the knowledge they hold are the legacy of the mysterious Numos, the messengers from the dark star. Many cultures claim their knowledge was given them by godlike beings descended from the heavens. But the Dogons insist their gods descended from one star in particular, which they're able to identify and describe in detail. Does other evidence exist of this encounter between gods and men? In 1937, French anthropologist
Very interesting. So this whole explanation of Sirius mystery is supposed to be the beginnings of the gods who came to Egypt. And they tell you further about the Sirius Mystery forming the beginnings of creation. This is a more depth study of this whole circular system that goes around Sirius A and B. We'll talk about that maybe in the future, but I have more to talk about the Sirius Mystery, because it's very interesting how the ancient Egyptian gods came from this system. Osar and Isis came from the Sirius Mystery. And it's all in this book by K.G. Temple that came out in the 70s. But as I see, it was the telescope actually took a picture of it in 1950, they say.
What is I have a question, you know, I have to look at it again, is how was he looking for a star? How was he looking for that which he did not know was there?
He was told it was there.
Yeah, by, you know.
By these Africans, they were trying to prove him wrong.
Now, you saw how elaborate that telescope is, right?
Yeah, and these little Africans down in the dirt are drawing it in a circle. So that does a knock for white supremacy, doesn't it? But what these guys, now they don't want to believe this because of the fact that this African tribe has this knowledge of the stars.
Well,
you know what a dwarf star looks like, and you can draw it on a cave?
Another question is, and this is for the scientists in the audience, dark star, the black hole.
Yeah.
What can come out of that other than black? I mean, I'm just, this is Brother Leroy on the corner talking because I don't know. And when I say I don't know, it's a good question. The deepest mysteries come out of the dark area.
Well, it's where'd the first human come from?
From the dark area.
You know, this is all well known by us. It's for them. You have to be sympathetic to their ignorance. Look at Trump. You got to feel sorry for this brother. I mean, it's pitiful.
From a human being standpoint. From a human being standpoint.
That's why I say he's a blessing from God. As
Amen.
Obama was a blessing from God. We've got the devil here. We got the sure enough devil. Ain't no doubt that this is the devil. Is anybody any doubt that we got a devil here in the White House? I mean, white, black, green, purple, whatever you coming from, you know we got a devil there.
Well,
You're not supposed to be built like this guy.
He's got
You're
a
not supposed to
companion.
think like this.
He's got companions.
You get some power because you got money and greed and selfishness. But you think that what comes out of your mouth and your mind is he's delusional. The way he talks to people. Somebody's talking down to people? I mean, I don't think he had kings that, no, you probably did, because they went on television, and they didn't know how ridiculous they looked.
Wow.
But everybody around them that can think like this is where the pity, it shows you the disruption in the whole, it shows you how messed up America is. To think that they can justify half the stuff this man does, we're in deep trouble. And we got to look at ourselves that we don't fall prey to this. When we find that greed and selfishness in ourselves, we got to understand that we come from a different nature. It's not in our nature to act like this.
That's right.
When we start killing each other over bull, there's the real problem. Ain't no color involved with that when you killing your brother over what?
You stepped on my shoes, man.
You know what I mean? And I find that more offensive than anything. And then white supremacy. That I got to fight with my brother over garbage? Over nothing? Or how you talk about my mother?
What you looking at me for?
I mean, where have we come from?
Well, there's insanity.
And we have all this knowledge and that's what I'm worried about. How we deal with this.
That knowledge is not on MTV. That knowledge is not on Love and Hip Hop. That knowledge is not on Atlanta Housewives. That knowledge is not on Maury Povich. It just ain't. And we have to, through programs like this, and that's a big benefit that you have done for the community in New York, black, white, anyone else who looks at this program. Because what happens is this.
Explain this one thing to me. Why today you have to act like a nigger to be black? to most people who are black. They think you got to act down and dirty in order to be black.
We bought into the narrative. We bought into the narrative of wearing a cap on the side of our head and the other things that are projected through hip-hop videos. Hip-hop videos have been taken over some years ago to project a negative image of us. And one of the scandals that we've known about is what happens in the music industry to get our artists to do negative rap.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest scandals. They're not going to project that in on 60 Minutes or Frontline because they're in agreement with it, because it projects us as coons and anything else.
Yeah.
So that image going out, our little children are affected by it.
Of course.
Infected and affected by it. So that makes our work harder.
Yeah.
And see, when you look at, from a social science standpoint, when you look at behavior, unless you believe that that is innate or by nature in that individual or group of individuals, you just accept it as that. Mm-hmm. But if you're looking at it from a benevolent or benign or benevolent position, then you're saying, why is that happening? How come my son is doing that?
Right.
Where'd she get that from? You remember our parents would say, where'd you get that from?
Right.
If we said something out of the way, where'd you get that from? Who you been talking to?
Right.
All right.
Right.
So we have to use that same approach to look at our people. And when you look at our people today in New York City, you cannot look at it without looking at what drugs that they've been prescribed. What drugs they've been prescribed, and they're giving our children.
Ritalin?
They're giving out foster. You talk to foster care parents.
Oh wow, that's a whole show, man.
And the parents will tell you,
God.
well, you know,
Yeah,
you've done. The parents will tell you, you know, there's nothing wrong with this little boy, and they making me give him Ritalin and some other thing, and if I don't give it to him, they're gonna take him away.
Yeah.
Okay.
ACS.
New York City.
Right.
Chicago, Detroit.
Right.
Los Angeles, San Francisco. What is happening to our people under the guise of we're doing it for their benefit?
Well, it's the same system as it's always been. It's still slavery in a different mindset. The drugs are given, we're allowed to sell drugs to each other, kill each other off any way possible. And then after being a drug dealer, you become a rapper and kill us with music. I don't understand this, how we can glorify an ex-drug dealer. This was our worst enemy. They were killing our people. I mean, those are the worst people on the planet. How we kill each other. By what? All sorts of different means. So, I mean, that's something we got to work on. And that's inherent with us. So that's why we show you stories like this, to give you some insight of who you are and where you come from. No need to think of yourself as a nigger or call your brother a nigger.
That's right.
Nigger means low life.
It's my nigger today.
Low life or my nigger.
You know,
I mean, where are you coming from with this? This
then
is
I
not
hit the nigger,
a word
and the nigger
you
went
throw
down,
around. Yeah,
and the nigger, you know,
mean, come
I told the nigger to get up.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, if you analyze the word low life being a nigger, Trump is a white nigger. You know what I mean? Excuse me.
Made in America.
Made in America.
Listen, ending the show on a very, very high positive note, and we've talked positive throughout the program. I went to a meeting this past Saturday. It's the organization called ASCAT. And this is the organization that started by Jeff Reeves and Asa Hilliard and a number of others to showcase black scholarship. And this one lady, and I don't recall her name, she says in the education of black children, you cannot leave out the spirituality component.
That's right. That's
and
right.
She said, you have to say, it has nothing to do with religion, it has something to do with black people being spiritual, and that goes to the doggone piece.
That's it. That's it.
You've got to teach our children that there is a God.
That's it. There you go.
And regardless of what your religion is, get your child to remember, and by memory, the 23rd Psalm.
Yea, though I walk
Lord
through
is
the
my
valley.
shepherd, I shall not want. And each stanza in that psalm is a prayer. So
That's right.
if they don't remember anything but 2 or 3 of them, those are 3 prayers. So we have to get them in. And she said, another doctor, Dr. Velva Bowles, I talked to yesterday, the lady down in Louisiana that we interviewed. She said, let your child, there's another sister who came behind the first one and said, let your child see you praying. Let them hear you pray. Teach them how to pray. She said a few years ago, I wouldn't have thought that I would be telling, this is Velva Bowles, would be telling someone to have this as a component in their life. But I've seen, she said, I talked to a little boy, he's 8 years old, he never prayed, he didn't know what prayer was, he never been to church. And we have to do this. We have to do this. That's a component. The 23rd Psalm is no problem. And last but not least, black folks have to begin to plug into information streams controlled by blacks, and that's black newspapers, black magazines, shows like this, YouTube, etc. Got to do that. Otherwise, you Made in America, the New York Post, AM, Metro, Daily News, and the other papers, and that's another point of view.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you.
This is truly my brother, man.
All praise is due to the Almighty.
And the God in me loves the God in you. Stay tuned for more of the Gilchrist Experience, and we'll try to bring you something that makes sense and show you that you have no doubt that you are a spiritual human being, that God loves you and you love everybody else. Like I say, the God in me loves the God in you. God bless you.
Amen.
Power to the people.